Clown in a Cornfield is the newest slasher film based off of a novel, and it was a little disappointing. I have read the book, and also the sequel. There's a third one, but I haven't read that yet. But you clicked on a movie review, so that's what I'm going to focus on. The only thing I will say is that the book was better, but that's out of the way. I'm going to just focus on how it was as a movie experience. I was curious to see the book adapted, especially since there are 2 sequels, so we already have a baked-in storyline if this is successful to be a franchise, and I always root for new slashers. Even if there's a slasher that I'm kind of mixed on, like Heart Eyes earlier this year, there were plenty of good things about it, and I would like to see them make a sequel to see if they improve. And this is also directed by Eli Craig, who directed Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, one of my favorite horror comedies of all time. And the comedy, when it hits, is where the movie shines. I think its greatest strength is its sense of humor. It is definitely not taking itself very seriously. It's called Clown in a Cornfield. It knows exactly what it is. It is advertised to you perfectly. There's a killer clown, he's in a cornfield, it's 90 minutes, there's very little wasted time. Get in, get some slashing done, and get out. You know what you're getting into. If you just want a slasher, it's totally satisfying enough. I think it's fine. It really does move at a very quick pace. It's never boring at all. There's some good kills, some good gore, practical effects, nothing groundbreaking that I've never seen before, but some good ones. And there's a good variety of weapons used, even if a lot of them are bladed weapons. They're still different. And there's a lot of slashers where they'll use a knife, and then that's the only thing they ever use for every kill throughout the whole movie. Whereas in this, I'm running through all the kills in my head, and not every single kill was with a different weapon, but I want to say almost. And while the horror genre is no stranger to killer clowns, whether they be aliens or interdimensional elder god creatures or just a crazy torture man who gains demonic powers, this is a little bit different. The way the clown friendo is presented here is done in a way that definitely does stand out from some of those other stories that you may be used to. The first half is pretty standard in terms of what you expect from a slasher, and then it doesn't go in like these crazy, wild, never-before-seen directions, but at least does some things that are pretty fresh, involving the killer's motivation and who they are that I don't know that I've quite seen in a slasher. I think the comedy worked best when it was situational. This is a movie about generational divides. This is a small town in Missouri, and the adults do not understand the kids and their damn phones and their damn TikToks. Speaking of which, what the fuck is up with cell phones in movie theaters, huh? The guy 2 seats over from me was on his phone damn near the entire runtime. This was an early access screening. The day before the movie even comes out. You saw the movie as soon as you possibly could, and you didn't even watch it. If you wanted to be on your phone, you could have done that at home, you fucking idiot. Anyway, what were we talking about? Clowns? Right, generational divides is a big theme of this movie, and the adults and the kids really not understanding each other, not being willing to listen. So some of the comedy that comes from that is really good, like the kids not knowing how to operate older pieces of technology. They're always filming prank videos for YouTube, and so once things actually start going down and people aren't believing that the kids who always cry wolf are actually being serious this time, there's some good comedy to be had in those situations for sure, but I think a lot of the humor didn't work for me because it was a little too self-aware. Like, you have some of the lines that show that the movie knows what it is, but they're just a little bit too, do I dare say, corny? Just the type of dialogue that's like, I can't believe there's killer clowns after us. You know, like the thing where they kind of just point out what's happening to draw your attention to how absurd it is. It's that kind of writing that's just a little bit uncreative, and there's a decent amount of humor that's like that, and I don't know if it was in the writing or in the performances. I think the performances are mostly good across the board for what this is, but when it comes to some of that humor, I don't know if they quite nailed the tone. It's definitely lighthearted, it's not taking itself seriously, and when the humor hits, that's when it's at its best. But I wish it had hit more consistently for me. There weren't a lot of consistent laughs around me in the theater either. There were quite a few lines that fell flat just because it felt like they were trying to be too on the nose and they just didn't really strike that balance quite enough. The characters are really nothing to write home about. You got the stereotypical douchebag guy, you got the kind of asshole girl who's jealous of the main girl. The main character, Quinn, is likable enough. She shows strength in her actions and the way she fights back and everything. Not really much of interest actually going on as a person. I'm not like dying to see where her journey could go next. What I really liked and appreciated was her relationship with her father. Parents in slashers are not always major entities. You've got like Catherine Hicks in Child's Play, which is kind of necessary because Andy is so young. But when you've got teenage slashers, the parents are either not there at all, or maybe they're killed off early on off screen or something. You got John Saxon in Nightmare on Elm Street, he's memorable, but it's not often that you have a character like this, where her father is genuinely involved for most of the movie, he's likable, and because the movie is about the generational divide, it's kind of nice to have both. It's nice to have the younger girl and the older guy. The conflict between them feels understandable, it doesn't feel forced, and I liked their chemistry, their relationship together, and I think he was actually my favorite character. I just wish the teenage characters stood out more. They're mostly fine, but a consequence of the fast pacing, even though I think it was beneficial to the film, is that you just don't really have enough time to delve into a lot of this. When you talk about certain backstories that the main character Quinn has experienced, or this other character has experienced, you don't get enough time to really feel the emotion. They kind of just quickly tell them to you. When you're learning about relationships between characters in this town, these strained relationships, how they used to be and how they've changed and how they might rekindle, there's not really enough time to really care all that much. And when you get into the killer's motivation, while there are some interesting aspects to it, and there's definitely a little bit of commentary on our society in it, again, you don't really get a ton of time in this town to fully experience the issues that this person is monologuing about. You're kind of expected to bring in your own baggage and your own thoughts on this issue and just what you've experienced in the real world, what you've seen about this. You don't get enough time with these people to be fully immersed. You know, you got like Kevin Durand in here as a pretty important character. He's the father of one of the main characters. He's like the richest guy in town. He owns everything. He runs everything. He doesn't really have a lot of screen time. He actually has more than he does in the book. He shows up even less in the book. But it's Kevin Durand. He's really fun. His character seems interesting. I'd like to follow him some more, see what's going on with that guy. And he just doesn't really show up that often. You don't get a lot of time with many of these individuals. And some of that is the case in the book too, because it is a YA novel. You gotta keep it brisk. You gotta keep the pacing going. And I understand that. You got page count to worry about. You could make the movie a little longer than just 90 minutes. I think the pacing was super efficient, but it's not gonna stick with me all that much. Because even though you don't always go to a slasher looking for extra depth, you might just go for some fun kills, which the movie does have. There are so many other slashers out there. So am I gonna throw this one on again? If I did, it would go by quick, it would be totally harmless, but I don't know that I would because there are so many slashers already that do more than this one does. So if you had that extra character depth, that extra time spent with them, spent learning the backstories and feeling the strained relationships and feeling the tension in this town, because I'm told it, but I never really felt it. If you had that extra bit, it would be more memorable. And speaking of tension, it's certainly not scary or suspenseful in any way. It's really just trying to be fun. And it mostly is. I had a good time because it was so quick and there were some kills. Again, it's what is advertised to you. It's a clown in a cornfield. You know what you're getting. So if you're a slasher fan, it's a totally fine time killer. I just don't know how much it's actually going to stick with me. It doesn't do much to really rise above many other slashers. There were also a few lame jump scares. Not a ton, but certainly a few. Wasn't a fan of those. The mystery also isn't that compelling once the carnage really starts around the halfway point when you see what this killer is all about and there's actually something a little bit fresh to the way it's executed. The mystery and the motivation is definitely not the engaging part because it's very obvious. Like halfway into the movie, as soon as you see something, you immediately know, oh, okay, that is what it's all about. And then there's really no surprises after that at all. It's kind of another downside of the fast pacing. Even though everything is so efficient, that makes the mystery very streamlined. Like, everything is presented to you in a very straightforward way, so you're not really left guessing. Like, it's all told to you exactly how it is, and so you basically know what's going on most of the time. There aren't any solid red herrings or twists and turns other than this one point halfway through when you might be surprised by the visual that you see in the cornfield, but as soon as you see it, you immediately know what's going on, and it stays like that the rest of the runtime, even though the kills are fun to experience. So I was a little disappointed. I thought there were some areas of the book you could expand, and they didn't. There were some interesting things in the book that they left out entirely, and it just kind of ended up being fine. I had a fine time, but there's just not much to it. Frendo is no Art the Clown, and Quinn is no Sienna. Not that they needed to be, but I'm just saying it's not even close. Although I didn't give that much of a shit about Art the Clown until the second movie, so hey, you always got the opportunity to do more. I hope it's successful. I hope people enjoy it. I'm always down for more slashers. I'm gonna give it a 3. It was enjoyable. I don't know that I would watch it again, but I think that about covers it for my opinion on Clown in a Cornfield. I would love to hear yours down in the comments, whether you agree or disagree, if you liked it more or less than me, if you read the book and how you feel about that, how you feel it compares, how you feel about some of those changes. I'd like to discuss that because there were definitely a few changes in there. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.